What is going on, good people of YouTube? I'm ImJslay. Thank you so much for joining me. And wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day. Today we're playing some Madden 21, but before we get into it, if you enjoy the content, leave a like rating, and if you'd like to see more, hit the subscribe button and turn the notification bell on to stay updated with all of my uploads. If you missed our previous video, I'll leave a link in the description of this video for you to go check it out. But in it, I discuss, in my opinion, who I believe at this moment in time in Madden 21, who are the top 3 budget cornerbacks. If you're interested, be sure to check that video out. So for today's video, I'm excited. I'm excited about this video as well as my follow-up video that's going to be coming most likely on Monday. The reason for that, there's going to be a ton of content in these next 2 videos. What we're going to be doing in this video is talking about my 50 out of 50 updated Falcons theme team, but also talking through the personnel more in detail. How you can get the players that you need to out on the field, how you can get those abilities out on the field to run the offense that you run, or more specifically, to run the offense that I run. Now, before we get into it, just some brief housekeeping notes. First off, if you missed the Trips tight end mini scheme video that we posted a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, be sure to click on the card in the top right hand corner. It's going to take you right to that, and you're going to see the scheme that I run. This video is going to talk through the personnel, who I actually have out on the field, making these plays happen, running the routes, where these guys are lined up at. This is going to be a little more in-depth as far as the actual personnel goes. The video I'm going to be posting on Monday is actually going to be going through a gameplay video. I'm going to be talking about my thought process on calling plays, going through how I set up some of the route combinations that I set up when I decide to run, just the typical game flow, how I choose to call a game. Be sure to stop back by the channel, check that video out on Monday. It's going to give you a little bit more insight as to how I actually play a head-to-head game, right? But this video is going to be talking more along the lines of personnel. Now, before we get into it, this is a 50 out of 50 Falcons theme team. Yes, not every single player is going to see the field on the Falcons. That's just how theme teams work, right? If you're doing these theme teams correctly, they are helping you save some coins and get some added attributes in some areas like speed that you're not necessarily going to find in some other players by having 50 players out on the field, right? That just makes sense. But we're not necessarily going to be using all of those players, right? It doesn't make sense for me to use a 91 overall Robert Alford at cornerback when I can sub in Denzel Ward or I can sub in somebody else at cornerback, right? I hope that makes sense. So don't get upset if you don't see a lot of the Falcons players that are actually being used. We are using a ton of them, don't get me wrong, but just keep that in mind. The most important thing is putting the best players out on the field to help you succeed and win in head-to-head games, right? So I hope that makes sense. But on the topic of theme teams, we want to destroy this YouTube algorithm, and in doing so, I want you to tell me, who is your favorite theme team, whether it's theme team in this year, favorite theme team that you've run in Madden, past iterations. I want to know, and I guess that might be your favorite football team, right? Let me know in the comment section down below who that is. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right in. We're going to talk through the offense, the defense, the special teams, the specialists, the abilities. I'm going to show you how I get these players out on the field and how I actually have them in my lineup. Some of the players that aren't necessarily adding to the chemistries, how I can actually get them in my lineup. So without further ado, let's hop over and so let's start with the offense. Okay, so here is the offense. Now, once again, not all of these players are actually going to be seeing the field. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and throw on the screen right now a screenshot of what my offense actually looks like when I'm out running my trips tight end formation in a head-to-head game. So that footage is going to be on the screen right now. Okay, so now that you've had a chance to look at that, let's talk through some of the personnel decisions, right? Starting with the offensive line and the tight ends, nothing is changing there. Jimbo Covert at left tackle, Andrew Norrell at left guard, Alex Mack at center, Bill Fralick at right guard, Lincoln Kennedy at right tackle. This is a solid O-line. Even Alex Mack not meeting some of the thresholds that we need for pass blocking, is not that bad off, especially when you consider some of the abilities that we've got on the guards next to him, right? Norwell is a solid guard, meeting a lot of those thresholds. Covert, the same thing with the left tackle position. And then Bill Fralick and Lincoln Kennedy both get Falcons chemistry, so they are adding us when it comes to offensive line. They are getting the added boosts from strength that you get for having 50 Falcons players in there. The speed is cool, but not really doing necessarily much for O-linemen, right? But a solid O-line, one that even with edge threats on the outside, if you know how to block it and you know how to pick it up, they're going to do just fine, right? Chris Cooley, the tight end, Tony Gonzalez backing him up, Austin Hooper backing him up, right? So this one is where you need to play around with personnel and you need to know what abilities you want to run and more importantly, what abilities you can run on some other players, right? I don't have Rich Gannon. I've got Brett Favre, as you can see. So Brett Favre does not get Hot Route Master, so I need a Backfield Master, and I need a tight end apprentice, allowing me to get extra hot routes at those specific positions. Chris Cooley having the possession archetype, his tight end apprentice is only 1 ability point. Tony Gonzalez having the vertical threat archetype, if I was to put tight end apprentice on him, it is going to be 2 ability points. Now, Tony Gonzalez, when fully powered up, that Zero Chill fully powered up version of Tony Gonzalez is much better than Chris Cooley. Cooley's stats, let's just take a look at it real quick. I'm not going to go through and actually show some of the attributes of all these players, but I do want to talk through this real quick. So Cooley at the best that I can get is 91 speed, which is not terrible. He does meet the short and medium route running at 96 and 95. Tony Gonzalez, I do not have him fully powered up, but he actually fully powered up on a Falcons 50 out of 50 theme team with 40 sprinters is going to get up to 96 speed, which is awesome. So I am sacrificing the speed aspect of Tony Gonzalez and just the fact that Gonzalez is a better tight end so I can run some other abilities. Now, it's only 1 ability point. However, that ability allowed me not to have to sacrifice the post up that I like to put on my guards, which allows them to get those dominant block sheds or those dominant impact blocks when they are engaged in double team blocks, right? Which you can do a lot if you've got, say, not necessarily edge protectors on your tackles. You can double team those ends, or you could double team an inside stuff when you're trying to run inside zone. That way it's going to negate his block shed coming through like that, right? So I didn't have to sacrifice only putting post up on my left guard or my right guard. I was able to put it on both because I was able to have a possession archetype tight end. I hope that made sense. I told you there's going to be a lot in this video. We're going to go through all of my thought process and my decisions on why my personnel is at the places that they are. But that is the O-line, and that is the tight ends. Let's come down to the skilled positions, right? Brett Favre, strong arm, gunslinger. One of the best releases, if not the best release in Madden 21. This guy's a 92 overall with his 50. He's powered up all the way to 96. Love this card. This is a great card. He is a budget card. If you want to go check that video out, click on the link in click on the card in the top right-hand corner. It'll take you over to my top 3 budget quarterbacks. Kamara at the running back position. So Kamara, we will get into the abilities a little bit more here in a second, but just to give you guys a little preview, he has Backfield Master. This is the guy that I have lined up next to Brett Favre. As you may have seen, you should have seen it in the screenshot where I actually showed the personnel when they are out on the field when I'm actually in a head-to-head game. Todd Gurley is in my slot wide receiver position. The reason I have him there most often than not is so if I want to audible down into a running formation, there's a lot of good running formations in the Las Vegas Raiders playbook out of trips tight end, right? You can audible from trips tight end down into I-form slot close, get a nice halfback dive or halfback stretch. You can audible into many other runs, and in doing so, those runs, a lot of them utilize 2 running back sets and not 3 wide receiver sets. So you substitute Todd Gurley into that slot wide receiver role. That allows you to audible down if your opponent comes out in a formation that you know you can run on him, a la Big Dime 146. You can literally just continue to hurry up, keep him in that audible down, and you're going to be running the ball, moving the ball all the way down the field, right? So that is why we utilize Gurley at the slot wide receiver position. Now, if I'm in a 3rd and long situation, I can very easily substitute Calvin Ridley in to that position for Gurley because I know I'm going to be passing. I'm not going to be audibling down, right? So you can always use that extra personnel, right? That 97 overall, 99 speed Calvin Ridley in those certain situations. So Kamar's the running back. Gurley is my slot running back that does see the field all the time. And don't worry about throwing him the ball. He is going to catch it, right? The catching stats for the running backs are not near as good, but they don't drop the ball. Possession catch it. You're not going to be, using him, throwing him deep, right? A lot of times in my trips tight end, if you saw the scheme that I run, I'm putting him on hitches, I'm putting him on flat routes, I'm putting him on drags, right? Stuff that's close to the line of scrimmage. He's not having to necessarily go route the cornerback, right? In zone coverage, those little hitches, he's going to be able to find the opening, catch it, possession catch it, get you about 6-7 yards. That's a good extension of the running game, right? So, little insight into what I do with my running backs. Now, the receivers, the ones that you see on the screen here right now, Ridley, Julio Jones, they're not my receivers. Let's go ahead and come over, and I'm going to go ahead and talk through this while we're on the topic of it. So I'm going to land on the special teams here, and here is my wide receiver route runner, Dion Sanders. Now let's take a look at this card. So this is the wide receiver that I have on the outside, right? And as you can see, he does have playmaker on him. You see the little icon right above the icons that are slashed out, right? He has playmaker. This allows me, when my opponent comes out in man coverage, which happens a lot, go jump into a weekend league game, you're going to be happy that you've got playmaker, because I can put Dion Sanders on a little drag route that is close to the line of scrimmage that makes him the closest wide receiver, and I can put him on a playmaker route to move him to different parts of the field, and because he's got playmaker, that input is going to be precise, and then I'm able to hit him, which is helping me beat man coverage, right? 97 speed, 99 short route running, 95 medium route running. Steve Smith, Terry McLaurin are a little bit better right now when it comes to the playmaker aspect because they have one better speed. However, Dion Sanders is not going to break the bank. Steve Smith's about $900K. Terry McLaurin's like 1.5 mil. Got this Dion Sanders for about $250K. I don't know what he's going for right now, but we are able to get all of my Falcons. Dion Sanders, while he did have Falcons chemistry, this particular card does not allow him to get Falcons chemistry. That's why you see the slashes in there, right? So I don't have him in my lineup. However, I have him at my kick returner number 2 because this allows me to sub him in at wide receiver, right? Those slashes through his abilities and through his chemistries do not necessarily mean that he doesn't get them. When he's on the field, he benefits from whatever tier play fake I've got. He benefits from however many sprinters I've got, right? Let's come over and look at that real quick. So we do have 50 out of 50 play fake, right? Which basically gives me added attributes in all of these categories right here. This Dion Sanders card is not adding to those, but I don't need him to because we already have 50. But when he's on the field, he is going to get that extra +5 in route running. He's going to get that extra +4 in short route running, +4 in medium route running, +4 in catching, right? He's going to get those added attribute boosts. For the sprinters, he's not adding to it, but we come down, we've got 40 out of 40 sprinters. I don't need him to add to it. When he's on the field, he's going to get that +2 speed. He's going to get that +2 acceleration, right? So that's how you can utilize the team building aspect of it. I don't necessarily need him to be in the wide receiver space because I need Devin Hester right there. Even though he's not playing, I need him for the 50 out of 50 team. However, I can sub Dion Sanders in to get my playmaker out on the field to go make plays in man coverage without having to sacrifice a Falcons roster spot for it. I hope that makes sense. I do want to touch on this real quick though. I'm going to click on the card here. If you look in the top right-hand corner where you see cap total, positions, base, and flex. So we're going to take a look at the base right there, 55 out of 55. So one thing to keep in mind is you can only have 55 total players on your roster. So keep that in mind, right? I could not put another wide receiver at punt returner number 2 because I would be over my roster size limit, right? I would be at 56 and I'm only allocated 55, which is why I could not come at long snapper and say put a Kevin Mawai in at long snapper and then substitute him in for Alex Mack. Kevin Mawai is a better center than Alex Mack is. I could not do that because I'm at my roster size limit right now. I hope that makes sense. The second wide receiver I want to talk about is this T.Y. Hilton. Now, T.Y. Hilton plays in the slot right next to the left tackle, right? He is running those crossing routes. He's running in curl flat, that smart routed post route that's going to get open. Now, the reason I like T.Y. Hilton and the reason that I'm not using Calvin Ridley, because T.Y. Hilton is actually one speed slower than Ridley, but T.Y. has that route runner archetype. The route runner archetype allows me to put route tech on him, which is a 3 ability point ability for Calvin Ridley, having the deep threat archetype. On T.Y. Hilton, it's a 2 ability point ability. So once again, I do not have to sacrifice an ability that I could use for another player. Once again, let's take the post-up example, right? I can have both post-ups on my guard. If I had Ridley, I would have to sacrifice, right? So this T.Y. Hilton sacrificing that 1 speed is not that big of a deal when you consider he has 99 short and 98 medium route running, right? So, and he also meets that 95 deep route running threshold as well. This T.Y. Hilton card is one of the best wide receivers in the game if you don't want to break the bank, right? If you don't want to go out and spend the coins for a Steve Smith. Now, Steve Smith has the slot archetype, but Steve Smith, the slot archetypes is a 2 ability point ability for route tech. Now, similar to Playmaker, you're going to be happy that you've got a route tech out on the field, because when your opponent is running man coverage, a route tech is going to have quicker cuts when he is running routes. So those crossing routes, right, those deep crossing routes where there's about 2 to 3 cuts that your receiver makes, he's going to break away from that cornerback who's in man coverage, even if the guy's got 1 step ahead. Yes, it's going to make it a little more difficult, but with that 98 speed and the fact that he has route tech, he's going to get separation more often than not, and if you're on time with the ball, it's going to be a completion. Now, by me having T.Y. Hilton at the slot wide receiver position here, once again, similar to Dion Sanders, I do not have to sacrifice a Falcons roster spot by putting him in at wide receiver. I need Roddy White there. Roddy White's got the ×3 Falcons chemistry. I need him there. I don't need to put T.Y. Hilton in that spot because that would take away from my 50 out of 50 team. So I hope that makes sense. And just like Dion Sanders, while you see the slashes through the abilities, through the chemistries, that just means that he's not adding to it, but when he's on the field, he is still getting those added attribute boosts. Okay, so I've pretty much gone through them, but let's just take a look at the abilities here. Just kind of a quick recap here for the offense. Alvin Kamara has Backfield Master and Freight Train. T.Y. Hilton has Route Tech and Double Me. Dion Sanders has Playmaker. Bill Fralick has Post Up. Chris Cooley has Tight End Apprentice. Andrew Norwell has Post Up. And then Brett Favre has Gunslinger and Omaha. So that's the abilities. Now let's go ahead and let's hop over to the defense and let's show you the personnel that we have on defense when we are out on the field. Okay, now that you have taken a look at the personnel when we are actually out on the field and where everybody is positioned, let's just go through how we've constructed this roster to make sure that we get those added Falcons chemistry boosts, right? So at the linebacker position, we have Sam Mills, Keanu Neal, Deion Jones, Patrick Queen. There's not another Falcons linebacker that you can use at middle linebacker. If there was, then I could go ahead and sub out Alex Mack. I could put somebody else in for him, right? But I can't do that right now, unfortunately. The linebacker position, Foye Oluokun, Leroy Reynolds, Khalil Mack, and Michael Walker. You've already seen we slide Khalil Mack down. He plays the left end position. Our defense, we do run nickel 3-3-5 and nickel 3-3-5 wide. John Abraham stays at his position. Aaron Donald is at the defensive tackle number 1 spot. Now, I've actually used his secondary position, right? The reason I did that was to save to where I could actually put a Falcons player at backup right end. I originally had Aaron Donald at my backup right end, and I would just substitute him in to the defensive tackle position when I actually got into the game. However, because of this chemistry and position change that I could do is I could, for 500 training, I could actually put him at the defensive tackle on his card. That way, when I go ahead and put him into defensive tackle in the actual lineup screen, he is going to still add to those added chemistries, the lockdown, as well as the brawlers that we've got, and it's not going to take away. Then that allowed me to put Tack McKinley in at the backup right end spot number 2, which once again, goes towards our 50 out of 50 Falcons team, which allowed me to have, say, a Denzel Ward and a Marcus Peters, right? It also allowed me to have a Bob Sanders and a Michael Jenkins. We'll get into that here in a second. But it allowed me to play around with one other roster spot that I could not necessarily use in the past. Grady Jarrett, Tyler Davidson, Deidre Sanat, Julius Peppers, they don't see the field. They're really just there for chemistry purposes. Peppers will occasionally see the field if we go into big nickel over G. That's very rare. Now, you've already seen it, but you already know Steve Atwater plays the left outside linebacker position. Bob Sanders is my user at middle linebacker. This card, the reason that I did not go with the Lawyer Milloy card, that I sold that one, Lawyer Milloy has 89 change of direction, and he only has 95 speed, right? Bob Sanders has 91 change of direction, and once you add in the sprinters, he's up to 97 speed. That extra 2 speed plus the 92 change of direction makes all the difference in the world. I can promise you that. That's why I went with this Bob Sanders card, and that's why I sold that Lawyer Milloy card. I was considering bringing Lawyer Milloy back. However, I decided to go with Malcolm Jenkins. I believe I said Michael Jenkins. I decided to go with Malcolm Jenkins. I may end up selling Malcolm Jenkins, going ahead and getting Lawyer Milloy back. However, I had a 62 to 81 power-up pass and an 85 to 86 power-up pass just laying in my binder. Malcolm Jenkins benefits from both of those, so all I had to do was purchase his 93 overall card for like $60K. Lawyer Milloy was selling for like $120K, so I just thought that this made the most sense. But Malcolm Jenkins plays that right outside linebacker, number 2. Occasionally, Sam Mills will play that role if I notice my opponent is doing nothing but running the football, right? He has better block shed, better pursuit angles from the middle linebacker spot, but the reason Jenkins is there over Sam Mills is because those linebackers don't get those jumping animations. So it literally makes no sense if your opponent is coming out passing to have linebackers in pass coverage. They're going to get destroyed over the middle of the field as well as in those curl flats by those corner routes. Don't even do it. Go ahead and put a safety in at those positions. Now, you've already seen it, but because the safeties do play the linebackers, we have to put D'Angelo Hall, and we're going to come over to the specialist screen here. We are able to substitute Marcus Peters in once again, just like T.Y. Hilton, just like Malcolm Jenkins, just like Dion Sanders, not have to sacrifice a Falcons roster spot. We can have Marcus Peters in at our slot cornerback number 2 in the specialist tier. He goes up and he actually plays strong safety. And then D'Angelo Hall goes up to play free safety, right? Then our corners look like this. We've got Asante Samuel and Denzel Ward on the outside. Dion Sanders is my slot cornerback. Let's take a look at these abilities. And I want to talk through this because I really like how I have structured my defensive abilities. It's helping me maximize and literally I have 11 defensive abilities out on the field. I believe it's 11, and I'll show you how I have 11 with all the ones that we've got. We are using zone abilities on our corners. I do run man occasionally. These corners have fast enough speed and good enough man coverage where even when I do mix in man, not having one step ahead doesn't hurt me too much. But running predominantly zone is really good. You can mix up, throw different looks at your opponent, confuse him, kind of get him thinking one thing, go the other way. I really like mixing in zone, and so we have zone abilities, right? Dion Sanders is our slot cornerback. He is going to be in hard flats and curl flats most often. That's why we have flat zone KO. Bob Sanders, we have out my way. Dominant impact block wins versus wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends. So this is more or less going to come into play from the running back and tight end aspect of it, right? If the fullback is coming to block Bob Sanders, if I am trying to shoot a gap from the outside and a tight end gets in my way, out my way is going to literally make me push the guy right out of the way like he's not in there at all, right? Asante Samuel, we've got 2 abilities on him. We've got flat zone KO when he's in cloud flats, hard flats. Then we've got deep out zone KO, improved reactions to knockouts in deep outside zones. That's when he's in that deep third, that deep half, right? Denzel Ward, we've got 1 ability on him. It's flat zone KO, so once again, the cloud flats, the hard flats. Marcus Peters and D'Angelo Hall. So this is one thing where I kind of got a little creative. They do not have an ability on them, but I do have an X factor on them. So when they get this X factor, let's say they intercept the pass, or if they knock out 3 passes or deflect 3 passes, they're going to get shut down. Shutdown is going to give them tighter coverage and more INTs on contested catches. So at my safeties, they're probably going to be involved in a lot of plays, right? I don't have abilities on them. However, if they do get this shutdown X factor, I actually end up with an extra ability on the field when they are lighting up, right? So I hope that makes sense. It's 0 ability points. It's not negating anything else that's on the field. So I don't have this on, say, a Denzel Ward. I don't have this on Asante Samuel, but I have them on Marcus Peters and D'Angelo Hall because you get 3 X factors. So in doing that, I actually have 2 extra abilities out on the field if they're able to meet these X factor conditions, which is either to intercept the pass or deflect 3 passes or to knock out 3 passes, right? Dion Sanders, my slot cornerback, also has this as well. I had 1 extra X factor. I went ahead and put it on the slot cornerback. Steve Atwater has flat zone KO, so being my right outside linebacker, or my left outside linebacker rather, he's going to be in curl flats, he's going to be in hard flats most often. Yes, he'll be in vertical hooks, in which case this is not necessarily going to affect that at all, but when he is in those curl flats, when he is in those hard flats, he's going to get improved reactions and catch knockouts. Same thing for Malcolm Jenkins, and even though Malcolm Jenkins is at the sub linebacker position, similar to T.Y. Hilton, similar to Dion Sanders, he still gets this ability. Aaron Donald has inside stuff, still a necessary ability in my opinion. The reason we use this Aaron Donald card is with him being a right end and the power rushing archetype, inside stuff is only a 2 ability point ability. If I was to put this on Grady Jarrett, it would actually be 3 ability points. And Aaron Donald actually has better attributes overall than Grady Jarrett, so that's why he's there also. But just keep that in mind. Do your research on your archetypes. Know where you don't have to sacrifice on ability points if you just got a particular player with a particular archetype. All right, I told you this was going to be packed, but this is a lot of good information. Rewind it, pause the screen if you see something that you're like, whoa, where did that come from? Take some notes. I promise you this is going to be jam-packed with a lot of information that you're going to need. Here's the specialist, Sterling Hoffrichter, Morton Anderson. The reason I have the Dion Sanders corner at kick and punt returner as opposed to the Dion Sanders wide receiver is, well, he's a corner. So when I'm getting the ball on offense, I don't want Dion Sanders to be tired right away when I'm on offense. So I put my corner who's on defense out there to go ahead and run back the kick or run back the punt. That way I don't have to worry about my wide receiver being tired going into play number 1, right? As for the specialist, you've already seen them. Just going to briefly touch on this, and then we're going to move right along. The team strategy. So, once again, if you have not seen these videos before, the head coach, the light and the dark, and the home stadiums add to the chemistry. So if you are 4 players short, you don't necessarily need to add those players. You can simply put the coach, the light and dark uniforms, and the home stadium in here as your team strategy, and that's going to get you an additional 4 chemistry slots. Similar to that, your head coach can be powered up to give you additional offensive and defensive chemistry. So I only needed 1 additional play fake, so I powered him up 1 time to get 1 additional play fake. If I needed an additional lockdown, if I needed 2 play fakes, if I needed 2 lockdowns, I could actually go power him all the way up, and I could get a total of additional 4 play fakes and 4 lockdowns. So if your overalls on your defense or offense is not where you can put ×2 or ×3 chemistry, if you understand what I'm talking about, you can power up your coach and get additional offensive and defensive chemistries that way. We are using the LA Raiders or the Las Vegas Raiders offense, and we're using the alternate base 46 defense that has the nickel 3-3-5, 3-3-5 wide, big nickel over G, which are the formations that we're always going to be in. For the team visuals, got the light and the dark unis for the Falcons, and then we've got head coach joke. So we have touched on just about everything. Let's come over here to the right-hand side of the screen. Here's our play fake. We did show this already, but play fake when you have tier 10 gives you all the added attributes in the attribute screen that you saw there. Tier 10 lockdown, once again, boost all the attributes that you see on the screen right here. We've got 50 out of 50 Falcons, so this is going to boost every Falcon player with the attributes that you're seeing on the screen there. We've got 40 out of 40 sprinters, so we're getting +2 acceleration, +2 speed, +1 jumping. These do come at a cost of -2 strength, -2 change of direction, and -2 agility. So this is why it's important, if you're going to use sprinters, find some players that do have good change of direction that you're going to be using, because they are going to come at a cost of -2 change of direction, which that could be a big deal. Brawler. So we are using Brawler on our offensive and defensive lines. The reason I'm not using Sprinter on the O-line and D-line is because it does come with that drawback of negative strength, and we don't want that. Brawler, you do get additional speed, and you get an additional strength based on the tiers that you go up, right? So we have 15 out of 15 right now. I do need 10 more brawlers to get to that next +1 strength, which would give me +2 strength total, which is really all I would need there. But nonetheless, that's why we don't use Sprinter on our offensive line. Yes, that's why we don't use Sprinter on our offensive or defensive line, because it would have a drawback of negative strength. Chicago Bears, so Jimbo Covert, Khalil Mack, previously Julius Peppers, they are a big part of our offensive line and defensive line. By getting 5 Chicago Bears, I get an additional +1 strength and +1 impact blocking, which is helping out Jimbo Covert in both categories and is helping out Khalil Mack in the +1 strength. All of the other ones here, these are just extra players, right, that we have out on the field that aren't going towards any team chemistries, but these are just the best players that we could put out on the field, right? These are players that are seeing our team. Okay, I think I covered everything. I told you this was going to be a jam-packed video, but I had a lot of fun. This was a video that I went a little more in-depth to my actual roster. Yes, this is a 50 out of 50 Falcons theme team, but as you can see, you can manipulate the roster and the team building aspect to get the better players out on the field and not necessarily have to sacrifice, +1 speed, say on Todd Gurley, or +2 speed on Todd Gurley, +2 speed on Dion Sanders, +2 speed on D'Angelo Hall, so on and so forth, right? +2 speed at a lot of the categories that we need them to be extra in, right? +2 strength on Bill Fralick and Lincoln Kennedy, right? So on down the line, +2 speed on Asante Samuel, right? It makes a huge difference. That gets Asante Samuel and Dion Sanders up to 99 speed, which is going to stick with those fast wide receivers that are in the game right now. You don't necessarily have to use all these Falcons players, right? I'm not going to use Robert Alford. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to have Devin Hester playing wide receiver, right? But I do need Dion Sanders. I do need T.Y. Hilton, so I can sub them in at the kick returner and slot wide receiver position respectively, and then get them out on the field and substitute them in when I'm in a head-to-head game. That you will see how we go and do that. You will see that in Monday's video where we actually go through a head-to-head game, so be sure to come back and check that video out. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, leave a like rating. As always, if you have a comment, a question related to the video, if I did not explain something properly, or if you just want to say what's up, leave that in the comment section down below. I love interacting with each and every one of you down there. And remember to comment and let me know who is your favorite theme team in Madden 21 or in Madden in general. I'd love to know that in the comment section down below. And if you'd like to see more content, hit the subscribe button and turn the notification bell on to stay updated with all of my uploads. I'm ImJslay, signing out today. I'll catch you all on my next video.